Hey, welcome back to what is my 100th video. Yeah, so here we are, episode 100. Can't quite believe I've made this many videos. It's really flown, but thanks for joining me and for being on this whole journey. Today we're going to do something a little bit different to mark the centenary anniversary marking of episodes. And we're actually going to step back in time. So for all the plot tours that you see, how the plot has evolved over the last couple of years, obviously I've only really had this channel for a couple of years, but I've had my allotment for seven years, maybe it's 8. So I want to show you guys how it looked in the very beginning, so you can understand how much it's changed and how much work went on, and we'll just see how it used to look, and it'll be a little trip down memory lane for me, and hopefully you can enjoy it too. So grab yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, or maybe even something stronger to celebrate with me, and yeah, let's go see how the plot used to look all those years ago. This photo is actually really quite special to me because it's the first picture I ever took of my allotment. But at the time, it wasn't my allotment. It was just a snapshot that I took of one of the few allotments that I saw as part of my tour when I decided which allotment I wanted to choose. I saw about 6 plots, and as soon as I walked into here, despite it not being in the best condition compared to some of the others, I just knew that this is the one I wanted. It felt quite wild, and I felt like I was walking into my own little secret garden, and I knew there were fruit trees, and it was quite enclosed despite still being quite bright, and you know, it faces south, so those are the main reasons why I chose it, but mainly just because it felt right. This is the old shed that was basically made out of front doors with ivy growing through it. It was quite hilarious really, but it did the job for somebody, I guess, and the ground was just covered in weeds, and it's hard to believe that it was this overgrown and that we really didn't have a clue what we were doing. And this is the first video tour, if you like, that I took with no intention of putting it on YouTube. It was purely all for my own purpose of self-documentation of the allotment, to track the progress. You know, I didn't really talk over this video. It was just me getting my bearings and seeing what was going on, really. At this point, we'd actually just taken off a load of ivy from the plum tree that was climbing up it. Back when it was actually alive and produced fruit for me. It doesn't anymore, sadly. Oh my gosh, I can even see my old blackcurrant bush. That died as well. God, I missed that, you know? It's funny to see all of this again, and I'm just about to turn around, I think, and that's where the polytunnel now is, and it's just an absolute wilderness. Look at it. I very quickly started to form a bit of a bond with the wildlife. At the time when I actually got my allotment, I was a little bit depressed, to be honest, and I just really made a really strong connection with the wildlife, and it just felt so pure and nourishing as well. Now you have to remember that I don't have a back garden or a front garden because I live in a flat in the city centre. So when I got my allotment, you know, this became my back garden. It became my own green space that I'm very lucky to have. But, you know, I wanted one so badly just so I could be outside and have my own little slice of nature and wildlife. And, you know, some days I did a lot, and some days I just sat back and let it surround me and be part of it, which hasn't really changed now, to be honest. Now back to the wildlife for a moment, because I became obsessed with voles because there was quite a lot of wood debris on the allotment, and look, there it is, can you see? It's a little bank vole, and I'd never seen one up close before, and I just remained so still so that I could have this amazing close-up encounter. Look at his little face. And yeah, I just sat and watched him, and look, he's tugging away at the thistle. And it just made it so clear for me that There was no question about it. I was always going to be an organic gardener. You know, I never even thought about using chemicals to spray the weeds, but seeing this little vole pull down a thistle to eat it or put it in his nest, it was just the sweetest thing, and it just made me realise, you know, how they are all part of the whole system. It was around December 2014 that my good friend Jay and I took down the old shed, which was essentially just front doors and ivy growing through it. Also, shout out to Jay's mum, who I think watches my videos. Yeah, we took it all down. It created a lot of debris that I had to get rid of, but we did it, and it made way for the new shed that was going to go in its place not long after. I remember I picked up my shed secondhand. It belonged to somebody else. I bought it off Gumtree for about £120, I think. It's a red cedar shed, but then the weather got pretty cold, and I couldn't put it up for a little while. So it was in early January, I believe, when we actually started to put down the foundations and get it all ready. But yeah, it was quite a frosty January, and it spent a few weeks just wrapped up right there in a big blue tarp on the allotment. We got the slabs down for the shed base, which was quite a grueling task, and huge thanks to my boyfriend, because it was awful getting them down. But the shed was up, and I had like such a little dork. I also toughened up, you know. I'm no fair weather gardener, and the training started pretty early on. Okay, that's cold. That's very cold. So here I am planting my garlic in the hail. I mean, February was a little bit late to be planting my garlic, but you know, I knew nothing and I was just giving it a go, which is how it is when you're growing your own. So here we are, I've got another little plot tour spin around for you. And not sure what progress I made here. What have we got going on? Oh, I think this is when I started to clear some of the centre beds, and on the left hand side as well, where all of my fruit patches are now, like the strawberry cages, and there's that huge pile of ivy still left over from the shed. And I completely forgot that this area of my fence was completely destroyed, and I can just see right through to my neighbour, which is the Heritage Display Garden. And they actually planted that hedge up with lots of whips, and it took about 2 or 3 years to mature. And you wouldn't even think it now that it used to be like this. When I think about my method for sort of tackling this, I guess I just did it by section. I tried not to feel overwhelmed. I took pictures and videos all the time to remind myself of the progress I made that day, that week, that month. And, you know, I planted a few things as I went along, like my garlic and some strawberries, just so I had something going on, you know, something to look forward to in terms of a crop of some sort. And, you know, gradually, year by year, it just took shape. It wasn't something that was going to happen overnight, and to be honest, I've enjoyed the entire process. The previous owner did put down some suppressant on the ground in some areas like this here, which actually meant that I could actually transform it quite quickly into 2 new beds. So it's quite helpful there. Sometimes it's not so helpful. Things like carpet is awful. Do not ever put carpet on top of your ground. It is just horrible, horrible stuff to get up and get rid of. And I think that's probably what one of the hardest parts was of getting the allotment into shape, because there was so much rubbish and debris in the soil, and that's what it was all about, getting out all the plastic, getting out all the glass, the carpet and the perennial weeds that were just suffocating the soil, and that is what took the longest time. And you know, it was quite demoralising sometimes, but I just kept thinking about, you know, how I wanted it to be and how I wanted it to feel, and it kept me going, and I'm still picking out pieces of glass to this day. By the summertime, my allotment was starting to, you know, look fairly half decent. Within about 9 months of having the plot, I was having some crops. I had lots of strawberries, and I was also harvesting my first ever homegrown potatoes, and they were
absolutely delicious. I mean, your first proper taste of homegrown food. My dad even harvested some with me. And, I had other bits and pieces as well, such as my raspberries. I realised and learnt what white rot is on garlic quite early. I actually put in the pond. I can't believe it was that long ago, to be honest, and it really doesn't take long for the wildlife to find the pond. And I had this amazing encounter with a fox one day. It was a young cub, and it stalked me around the plot and then even followed me back to my car and jumped on my bonnet. It was incredible. I harvested lots of plums, my Victoria plum tree that's sadly now dead. And just what a haul, for a first year. It was a great year, and it just started my addiction to grow my own food. And after the first year, we had a little celebration. We harvested all the apples with Jay, who helped do the shed, and had a little drink. The polytunnel actually came the following year, 2015, and Zoran, my allotment neighbour, helped put that up. It was a bit of a slog, but we got there, and I'm so appreciative of his help. Oh, this was also the year that I decided to devote almost half of my allotment to growing potatoes that you can see there in the front, and we had a lot of potatoes to get through that year. And the seating area, that's how it used to look as I was working through it, was a bit of a slog, getting lots of roots out and suckers, but I got there and we had a nice barbecue with friends to celebrate. I think it's all about celebrating the little things, the small victories and the little milestones, no matter how big or small they are.
So there we go, that's how the plot has changed over the years, and I forgot just how sort of wild it was right in the very beginning, and that I had no clue on what I was doing. But yes, we're here at episode 100, but it's not actually too long, hopefully, until I reach a new milestone, because I'm not far away from reaching 100,000 subscribers. At the moment in time, I think I'm at about 80,000, I think. It would be great if we can mark the 100th episode year with 100,000 subscribers as well. So, if you haven't already, and I never really ask you to do this, but if you could subscribe and help me reach that other milestone this year, that would be amazing. I would really appreciate it. And I really do appreciate all your support and comments, and just this whole thing that we've got going between you, me, and those other people in the comments. We've got such a nice niche little community here. And on that note, I want to give a special thank you to some of my top commenters who are there on every video, and I just want to give a special thanks to Beverly Simmons in Canada. I hope the snow has melted for you by now. Wendy, Stephen Dowden, Holly Lisa and Carmen Bailey. You guys are some of my top commenters, and I really appreciate all your support. And also a special thank you to all of the donors that have contributed money to my channel, either through Buy Me a Coffee or through PayPal. Thank you guys so much for helping me upgrade all of my kit. Your contributions really do go a long way, and they mean so much to me. Well, I really feel like I should have a cup of tea to make a toast, but I've actually run out of tea bags. Oh gosh, worst situation ever. So I'm going to raise my empty glass, and maybe you'll have a full one, and we can say cheers and happy 100th, and here's to 100,000 subscribers soon. But I love making these videos. I love our interaction, and there's going to be so much more to come. I'm not going to stop making them if you don't stop watching them. Who knows what this year's going to bring. But I am in the process of looking for a house, which is quite exciting because I've lived in a flat now for 11 years. So if I could actually have my own back garden, I mean, that's quite exciting. Watch this space. We'll see how that goes, because it's a bit of a minefield out there at the moment. Watch this space. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching, commenting, subscribing and sharing this video, and I will see you again real soon. Bye.